Today we continue to listen Silavanta Sutta. In this sutta, Venerable Sariputra was answering question put to him by Venerable Makutika. And he said that virtuous and instructed bhikkhu should attend carefully to the 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanence, as suffering, as disease, etc. And the list continue with 8 other aspects. So altogether there are 11 aspects of the 5 aggregates. Among them we have examined impermanence, suffering, and having no essence or having no core. And the next aspects to consider is palokato, disintegration. A bhikkhu yogi should attend to the 5 aggregates as disintegrating or dissolving, greatly disintegrating, seriously dissolving. And there are 2 kinds of disintegration. Moment to moment disintegrating and disintegration at the end of a life. And we should see the 5 aggregates of clinging as disintegrating moment by moment. Seeing this moment by moment disappearance, we can understand the last disintegration of what we call life. Disintegrating at the end of life and disintegrating during life at every moment are actually the same. A bhikkhu, a yogi, should see the 5 aggregates of clinging as disintegrating. When yogis see the impermanent nature of the aggregates, he sees both the arising and disintegrating. Since he sees the disintegrating, he is able to see the impermanent nature or the characteristics of impermanence as non-existence after having been. Hotwa abhavato. And another aspect is sunyato, emptiness. A bhikkhu should see the 5 aggregates of clinging as empty. Here, emptiness does not mean nothingness. In Theravada teaching, it means empty of atta, empty of an abiding self, empty of an abiding essence. So it means seeing as anatta, seeing as non-self. When you observe the 5 aggregates, when you observe the Namarupa, you see only the 5 aggregates. feeling coming and going continuously. Mental state you observe and it disappears continuously and nothing more. So when you see only the five aggregates, when you see only the Namarupa, and you see, and nothing more, that you can call a self or a soul. At every moment of noting, yogi understand that there is the object that is noted and the mind that notes. These two go as pairs at every moment, and there is nothing else but the object that is noted and the mind that knows. They also vanish. So the bhikkhu, the yogi, does not see anything that he can call a self or a soul, and in his seeing this way, yogi is seeing correctly. Venerable Sariputra described the five aggregates subject to clinging as impermanence, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a death, as misery, as affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty and non-self. So this list of 11 aspects of the five aggregates can be accepted as an authentic teaching of the Buddha, as it is found in various other suttas taught by the Buddha himself. These 11 aspects can be condensed to only 3. How you can condense? Impermanence and disintegration actually mean the same thing. Nature, Paraloka taught the same. Suffering, disease, and tumor, and death, misery, and affliction are all aspects of dukkha, suffering. And alien, empty, and non-self are attributes of non-self. So here again, you meet the 3 characteristics: nature, dukkha, and anatta. So this understanding is important, and it is enough just to see the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. But if you want to know more, you can go to the Visuddhimagga, which in describing Vipassana knowledge lists 40 ways of observing the aggregates of clinging, or 40 ways of observing mind and matter. And what can we expect from seeing aggregates of clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self? According to Venerable Sariputra, ime pinju badanakande yoniso manasikrondo sotapati palan sichikareya. When a virtuous and instructed bhikkhu carefully attends to these five aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, it is possible that he may realize the fruits of stream entry. That means that when a bhikkhu, yogi, sees the five aggregates of clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, and so on, it is possible that he will become a Sotapanna. So today we have to listen how yogi experience different kinds of vipassana knowledges and how yogi goes along 7 stages of purity. Silavanta Bhikkhuna, first yogi take and keep precepts. He or she takes 5 precepts or 8 precepts or 10 precepts to purify his or her moral conduct. So the first stage is like making preparation for the practice of meditation. And then second stage. Second stage of purity is called Citta Visuddhi, purity of mind. That means yogi tried to observe every phenomena, every bodily movement, every actions of citta, consciousness, every feelings, and every dhamma objects. First yogi take only few objects, rising, falling of the abdomen, etc. When yogi practice precisely and continuously, yogi gain concentration. So the second stage of purity is called Citta Visuddhi, purity of mind. That really means concentration. So excess concentration and absorption concentration are said to be purity of mind. As yogi gets excess concentration and absorption concentration when he or she practices samatha meditation, he practices one of the subject of samatha meditation and he gets excess concentration and absorption concentration. Excess concentration, upachara samadhi, is also called neighborhood concentration. And absorption concentration is called jhana concentration. The first is called neighborhood concentration because it is in the neighborhood of jhana concentration. These two kinds of concentration are for those yogi who practice samatha meditation first and then who will change over to vipassana meditation. And there are those yogi who do not practice samatha meditation, who do not begin their meditation practice with samatha meditation, but who practice vipassana meditation right away. For those vipassana yogi, purity of mind means momentary concentration, khanika samadhi. Momentary concentration is similar to excess concentration. When yogi gets excess concentration, he can keep his mind on the meditation objects firmly. There will be no mental hindrances, sensual desire, ill will, etc. in his mind. So, excess concentration can subdue the mental hindrances and it can keep the mind on the meditation object firmly. In the same way, momentary concentration can keep the mind on the object and also it can keep the mental hindrances away from his mind. So momentary concentration is actually similar to excess concentration. And what is the difference? The only difference between excess concentration and momentary concentration is that for excess concentration, you take only one object. But for momentary concentration, you have to take many objects. There can be many objects. The objects may differ at different moments for momentary concentration, but for excess concentration, the object is the same kind all through. If you do not get momentary concentration, in the practice of vipassana, your practice will not be successful. So Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw explained that for those yogis who practice pure vipassana, for those who do not practice samatha meditation, but practice pure vipassana, Citta Visuddhi, purity of mind, means momentary concentration. So when a yogi who practices vipassana gets momentary concentration, he is said to have achieved the second stage of purity, purity of mind. So during practice, when your mind is on the meditation objects only, and your mind does not wander, then you are said to have obtained momentary concentration. When you get momentary concentration, you begin to see the objects clearly. You begin to see namarupa. You begin to distinguish objects as this is mind, this is matter. You can distinguish. Also, you begin to see the characteristics, the function, manifestation, and proximate cause of these objects. So when you see the objects clearly, when you can distinguish that it is nama, it is rupa, it is mind, and it is matter, And when you see the characteristics and others clearly, then you are said to have achieved Detti Visuddhi. Your view is purified. That is purity of view. Purity of view means when you watch the objects, you just see that there is just the objects and there is the mind that takes that object. So there are only just these two things, nama and rupa, arising and disappearing. You just see it. You cannot see man, you cannot see woman, you just see nama rupa, arising and disappearing. And there's nothing in addition to these two things which you can call a self or the soul or an atta. When yogi reached this stage, he is able to abandon the wrong view that there is an atta, there is an self or soul, distinct from mind and matter. So at that stage, yogi are said to gain the knowledge of defining mind and matter, nama, rupa. Then yogi observed the five aggregates thoroughly, and yogi can capture the intention. So after seeing mind and matter clearly and distinctly, yogi see the causes of mind and matter. Yogi see that something is the cause of mind or something is the cause of matter. At this stage, yogi are able to overcome doubts. Doubt about whether you have been before or doubt about whether you will be in the future. In the past, there were only cause and effects process. And also there will be cause and effect process in the future. So you overcome doubt about whether you have been before or whether you will be in the future. There will be only cause and effect in the future. And also yogi are able to overcome doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the practice. At this stage, yogi are said to gain the knowledge of discerning causes. Causes means sometimes the real causes and sometimes the condition. So at this stage, yogi see the conditionality of things because there is something to be seen. There is a seeing consciousness. Because there is something to be noted, there is noting consciousness, and so on. So yogi see this clearly at this stage. When a yogi has reached this stage, purity of overcoming doubts, yogi is called Chula Sotapanna. He is a lesser stream entrant. That means yogi is not a real Sotapanna, but he becomes like a Sotapanna. Sotapanna will not be reborn in the four woeful states in the future births. Now this yogi, a Chula Sotapanna, will not be reborn in four woeful states in his next rebirth. If he does not fall away from this stage, from this vipassana stage. If he falls away from this stage before his death, then his rebirth is not assured. He may be reborn in the four woeful states. If he does not fall away from this stage until his death, he will not be reborn in the four woeful states. So he is like a Sotapanna. He is called a Chula Sotapanna or Lesser Sotapanna. After discerning the causes of mind and matter, yogi practice the comprehension of the three characteristics, samasana. At this stage, yogi takes objects as a group and then contemplates on them as impermanent, suffering, and not soul. This stage is called purity of knowledge and vision of path and not path. At this stage, yogi gains the knowledge of comprehension. At this stage, yogi dwells on many objects and tries to see these objects as impermanent, suffering, and not soul. After comprehending these three characteristics of mind and matter, he comes to see the arising and disappearing of mind and matter, or the arising and disappearing of objects. Here, yogis see the arising and disappearing of individual objects. You do not take a group objects, but you take each individual objects at the moment, and you see that the object arises and disappears. When you see the arising and disappearing of mind and matter, your concentration becomes strong. When your concentration becomes stronger, you begin to experience what are called embediments of vipassana, upakilesa. So yogi may experience light, yogi may experience joy or pity, and yogi experience tranquility, passaddhi. Yogi experience a strong confidence or strong faith, saddha. And yogi's effort is strong. And he experienced sukha, happiness. A yogi understanding is very sharp at this moment. Yogi's mindfulness is very firm. And he doesn't have to make much effort to be mindful of the objects. Because practice gains momentum. And last embodiment, there is the attachment. Because at this stage, everything is very fine, and there is the attachment to these objects, to these embodiments. When these embodiments arise, yogi is pleased with these embodiments. He likes them and he wants to hold on them. So there is attachment to these objects. So these 10 states are called impediments of vipassana. Because when a yogi experiences these impediments, yogi thinks he has reached his goal. So be careful. You are noting your observation is not complete yet. But yogi may think he has reached his goal. Yogi thinks that it is the end of his practice. So he stopped there and he does not go any further. When yogi does not go any further, and this is not the end of his journey, and it is just some side effect yogi experienced during the practice. So when he stopped there, his progress is blocked. That is why these are called impediments of vipassana. They are not the right path of vipassana. So a person who has no prior knowledge of these may take them to be his goal, but a yogi who knows about these or who has prior knowledge of these knows that they are not the real goal, and he has to overcome these experiences. Then he will practice further and be able to overcome, or he will be able to transcend these impediments of vipassana. This stage of knowledge is called purity of knowledge and vision of path and non-path. Simply put, it means understanding which is right and wrong, which is the right path and which is the wrong path. You need to understand. When these 10 impediments arise and yogi is satisfied with them and attached to them, you are following the wrong path because you stop there. You satisfy with them, you attach to them. So you are following the wrong path because yogi will not make any progress after that. So these 10 impediments, or actually the attachment to these 10 impediments, is called amagga, non-path. A yogi must understand that these are just impediments and they are to be transcended, and that the practice of mindfulness on these impediments is the right path. The practice of mindfulness on these impediments is the right way to do. Yogi must understand. So understanding that which is the right path and that which is not the right path is what is meant by purity of knowledge and vision of path and non-path. So during this stage, a yogi is confronted with this problem. Actually, that is, these 10 impediments, 10 upakilesa. If yogi does not go any further, then your progress will be arrested there. Understanding which path is the correct way and which path is not the correct way is the name of this stage of purity. After transcending the impediments, yogi again see the arising and disappearing of mind and matter. Now yogi continue to practice, continue to note. So when yogi note again, and at this stage, yogi seeing is clearer, your understanding is stronger. Now you may have noticed first, you see the arising and disappearing of mind and matter, and then yogi encountered the 10 impediments. Then yogi makes effort to transcend the 10 impediments. So yogi again see the arising and disappearing of mind and matter. This time, your understanding is clearer. So there are two stages of the knowledge of arising and falling. Weak stage and strong stage. The first stage is the weak stage. At this stage, yogi's understanding is not so strong, and so the impediments come. And then yogi transcends the impediments and yogi's understanding becomes stronger. So when yogi's understanding becomes stronger, yogi sees more clearly the arising and disappearing of objects. After that knowledge, yogi keep noting and other kinds of knowledge arises. By that knowledge, yogi see the falling only. Yogi see the disappearing only. Because you observe every arising object, and now you can see the falling only, the disappearing only. It is better. Yogi does not try to see the arising. So yogi seeing or understanding is of falling or disappearing only. So at this stage of knowledge, whatever objects yogi observe, yogi see as disappearing. When you see just the disappearing of whatever objects, you keep your mind on the object disappear. So when you see the disappearance of objects, you come to the knowledge that objects are fearful. 5 aggregates are fearful. Namarupa are fearful. That is Bayanyana. 5 aggregates are dangerous. Because 5 aggregates do not last and they disappear as you observe them. So after that, yogi comes to a stage where you find fault with namarupa or 5 aggregates. When yogis see that mind and matter or 5 aggregates are fearful, then yogi finds some fault with them. After seeing the fault with them, yogi becomes disenchanted, nebida. That means yogi turns away from mind and matter. Yogi turns away from 5 aggregates. Yogi is dispassionate with mind and matter, or yogi becomes wearied with mind and matter or 5 aggregates. Now yogi is just seeing the disappearing, so yogi knows that 5 aggregates or namarupa are fearful and dangerous. A yogi finds faults with them, so now yogi becomes weary with them. When you become weary with them, you want to get free from them. You want to get free from 5 aggregates of mind and matter, because whatever mind and matter you observe, you see them disappearing. So yogi wants to get free from 5 aggregates. That means yogi wants to get free from suffering. So this knowledge is called Mojitu Kamyata Jnana in Pali. It is a desire to get free, desire to escape. When it is Mojitu Kamyata, it means desire to let go. They mean the same thing actually. When you became disenchanted with something, you want to throw it away, you want to let go. So desire to get free, desire to let go is the same. And when yogi wants to get free from nama rupa or 5 aggregates, or when yogi wants to let go of 5 aggregates or nama rupa, what you do? You contemplate on them again as impermanent, suffering, and not so. You keep noting. You continue to note. So at this stage, yogi tries to see 5 aggregates as impermanent, suffering, and not so again and again. Then, as a result of this comprehension, Yogi reached into another stage of knowledge, which is called equanimity. Equanimity towards 5 aggregates or namarupa. That is equanimity about formation. That means when yogi reaches this stage, yogi does not have to make effort to be mindful of the object. Yogi's mind is always on the objects, and so his mindfulness, as it were, comes to him automatically. So yogi is not concerned about mindfulness because he doesn't have to make effort. Yogi practice gain momentum. So mindfulness comes to yogi by itself because of your good practice. That is called equanimity towards mind and matter. Your mind is very calm during this stage. Your mind can stay in the middle. Or you can stay in the middle. Stay in the middle means when you come across fearful objects, you will not be afraid. And when you come across attractive objects, you will not be attracted to that object. So your mind will be in the middle. Also, yogi does not have to make effort. Your mindfulness is always good and on the object. So this is a stage. This knowledge is equanimity about formation, sankarupika, jnana. When yogi's knowledge or equanimity about formation becomes matured, yogi will get into another stage of knowledge called knowledge of conformity, nulomanyana. At this stage, yogi is about to get enlightenment. That knowledge is called conforming knowledge because it conforms both to previous kinds of knowledge and kinds of knowledge which are to come. After the knowledge of conformity, knowledge of change of lineage come. From the second part of knowledge of arising and falling up to the knowledge of conformity, there are 9 knowledges. These 9 stages of knowledge are called purity as the way, which is knowledge and vision, or we can just say purity of the way, purity of the practice. After the knowledge of conformity comes the knowledge of change of lineage. At this moment, at this knowledge of change of lineage, yogi is about to get enlightenment. So this moment is his last moment as a worldling Putujana, as an ordinary person. When he gets into next stage, yogi gains enlightenment. So this stage is called change of lineage. That means it overpowers the Putujana lineage. It overpowers the lineage of a worldling and reached into the lineage of a noble person, Arya. So this knowledge of change or lineage takes Nibbana as object, while the previous stages of knowledge takes mind and matter, nama and rupa, or conditioned phenomena as objects. So the knowledge of change of lineage is not vipassana, because at this stage, the mind does not take the aggregates as object. The mind takes Nibbana as object. So it is not vipassana, and it does not belong to the previous stage of purity or coming stage of purity. It is in between vipassana stages. And the knowledge of equanimity about formation, the knowledge of conformity, and the knowledge of change of lineage, these three are called insight leading to emergence. Here, emergence means path, because the next moment is the path moment. These three are said to lead to the path or lead to emergence. So they are called insight leading to emergence. Next is the stage of mega, knowledge of path. That means it is the moment of enlightenment. At this moment, realization of the Four Noble Truths arises. The truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Four Noble Truths arises, taking Nibbana as object. Immediately following the knowledge of path and path, it is knowledge of fruits. It is the fruits of the path. So it is called phala. After the knowledge of fruits, after the intervention of some thought moments, there arises in your mind the knowledge of reviewing. That means yogi looks back at what he has attained, and also he reviews his defilements which yogi has eradicated and defilements which are remaining. Normally, a yogi, after gaining enlightenment, reviews the path he has reached, the fruit he has reached, and nirvana he has realized, defilements he has eradicated, and defilements that are remaining. So there are 5 kinds of reviewing knowledge. And the 7th stage of purity, purity of knowledge and vision, is the name of the knowledge of path, Megajnana. So there are 7 stages of purity to go through in order to gain enlightenment, and there are different kinds of knowledge. So you have to go step by step. First, the knowledge of defining nama and rupa, and then knowledge of discerning causes, and knowledge of comprehension, and knowledge of rise and fall, and knowledge of rising and falling, then knowledge of falling only. Then there comes fearfulness, faultiness, disenchantment, and there comes a desire for freedom, and then recomprehension, and then Sankaripika equanimity about formation, then conformity, change of lineage, mega impala, path and fruition, and then reviewing, 16 vipassana knowledges. You have to go step by step because you observe the Pinjupadanakhana 5 aggregate subject to clinging continuously and precisely. So in this Silavanta Sutta, it's mentioned that when a virtuous and instructed bhikkhu carefully attends to these 5 aggregate subject to clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, etc., it is possible that he may realize the fruits of stream entry. That means it is possible that you will become Sotapanna if you observe the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanence, suffering, and so on. So we'll continue. Next time we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing the 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, etc. May you gain all purity, all 7 stages of purity, and may you gain vipassana knowledges completely step by step, and may you attain enlightenment, and may you be free from all suffering. So practicing meditation for a few minutes.